welcome to tonight's webinar. We were going to talk about redirects and overlays, which we still are, but before we can get around to that, a few people have been having some issues with knowing what files to upload where and so on. And I figure, seeing as we're doing a demo tonight, that maybe some of you would like to be able to see exactly how to do that. So can everybody see the screen and everything? Whoops, I just got right off it again, didn't I? There we go. So here you're seeing my website. And in behind here is the campaign that I've created. You can see the 3 folders that Hybrid has created for me. And so now what we're going to do is go into our cPanel and go into our public HTML. Now this is how I like to work some of the files when I'm doing things. I like to be able to see in my cPanel what is going on and what's going on with my folder right here on my machine. Now some of you have been using FileZilla. So let me actually, let's make this full screen. Come down here, be familiar with FileZilla. And what we're going to do is log on to our site. Kim, are you able to see the questions as they come up?
Yes.
Okay, let me know if there's something there, because right now I've got this covering over everything.
Okay.
I can too.
So I've got my site set up here in FileZilla. We'll connect. Obviously things are a little bit slow here while I'm on the webinar as well. Open this up, get it off screen. Make this one a little bit smaller. There we go. All right, so we want to scroll down to our public HTML folder. That's the folder where things have to start going into. The first thing I like to do is I come over to my folder. Many of you try hard to get things over here, which is your local computer, and drag it across. In case you didn't know, you can drag right out of a folder on your desktop right into FileZilla. Really makes things easy, drag and drop. So if you have your campaign folder open, this is the folder that has all my HTML files, my sitemap.txt, and so on. We need to copy this whole folder up into the public HTML directory. So I just grab that, drag it across, and tell it I want it in here. Yep, copy it across. I let go of the button. And at this point in time, FileZilla, as you can see, is scrambling to upload all the files. You can see it happening down here as well. And we just let it go ahead and continue to do its thing. You can see it's already created the folder. And inside that folder, all my files are going. This is just a demo for tonight. There's only 200 pages in there, so we're not going to be sitting here for the next hour waiting for them to upload. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Doug, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Click the stop sharing at the bottom. It's driving some people nuts.
Sorry.
You see that? There you go.
Gone. Anything else? Any other questions so far? As we can see, FileZilla is finished. It's done all its job. It's got 200 files up there. You can see there's 0 failed transfers. Down the bottom, it shows that it uploaded the 200 pages I had there, or 200 files that I had there. So now, once we've done this file, the next one that I worry about is the iComply folder. Now, we're not going to upload this whole folder into our public HTML. What we need to do is upload the contents. So we open that folder up, and we really don't need to upload the README file. So we're just going to select those 3 files. And again, we grab them, we drag them to the public HTML, and we let go. And away it goes. As you can see, the assets folder has just come up here. The legal.html is there. It's now uploading all the files inside the asset folder. And done. So that's 2 out of the 3 folders we've had to deal with.
Can I
interrupt?
Notice?
Can I
interrupt for just a second, please?
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to show them is if you just drag. Let's say you've got you're dragging the files into that window.
Yep.
And if you happen to drop it where the folders are, it's very likely you're going to accidentally drop it into a folder. It's smarter to just go to drag it into the area where there are no folders and it's all files, and then they'll arrange themselves properly. Hope that makes sense.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Another trick that I always do, if you notice my columns here, I've left a space at the end. That works exactly the same way. That's why I'm dragging everything right over to the right-hand side.
The important thing is if you drop them over, you think you're dropping. Let's say you're just dragging and dropping something from the left side to the right side, and you see where the well-known and assets and CGI bin, all of those folders. If you drop it in that area, it's going to end up inadvertently placing it inside one of those folders. And if you do that, then your files are not going to work properly. You're best off just making sure you don't drop it in any of those folders.
Correct. So one thing I wanted to point out in the iComply file is this file here. That is my redirect.html file. I called it loading. So it's loading.html. So that went right along with all the iComply files and was uploaded to the public HTML folder, which is where we want it to be. That's the root folder for this domain. The other file that we need is out of the XML uploads area. And you'll see here I have a loading.js file. So we need to bring that file over here as well and copy that in. Now if we look here, we can see that we have both a loading HTML and a loading JS. All my files are now uploaded. Because this is all that's required for the HTML files, they are all now working on the site. We can prove that to ourselves if we go back to our remote and we go into our HTML files. One of the files in here that Hybrid creates is the sitemap.txt. If we open that file up, inside it is a URL for every page we just created. So we could now pick this one, we'll copy it, and we'll go to our browser, open up a tab, paste in that HTML, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. There's the page, and it redirects immediately to my target. And there we are. I'm now selling static swarm. So we know that our HTML files are going, and we haven't set up any of the WordPress side, but all the HTML files are now working. The last part we have to do is we have to go into our dashboard. And the first thing, I thought I would show you this because a lot of people are confused with this. When you first install WordPress and go into it, the first thing you have to do is go down to the plugin section, and then you're going to click on Add New. And you want to upload a plugin, I've already downloaded this from Hybrid itself. If you go to the tutorial tab in Hybrid, there's a link there to download the OTP overlay file. And we look down there, and there it is. So we go open and install. There we are. Let's activate the plugin. And now I come over here. And now we get to what everybody is seeing. So at this point, I'm going to stop with the uploading of the files because we want, well, actually, no, we need to, pardon me, import. That was the other section. So we've got our overlay set up. We want to come into the tools and we want the import. And come down to WordPress import. Install now. Run importer. Now I need to browse to my campaigns folder, which is easier to do by doing %app data %. And in my XML uploads, here is my XML file. I go open, upload file and import. Author you want, we'll just call it Doug. If I can type my own name, good enough. If you had attachments, you could do that. We don't have any attachments, so it doesn't matter whether you do or not. Click submit. My pages are imported. Now I won't have many there because I have such a small sampling. But if we were to go to pages, let's see if we've got something. You can see there is one here. If we go to posts, we haven't got any. So we've just got the one page, but that's enough for us to know whether it's going to work. We'll delete this one just to get rid of it because this was a brand new installation to show you. Same as under pages, there's a sample page there. We want to, and privacy policy, I don't care about that either, so I'm going to move that to the trash and leave our one and only page that is there. Now, if we were to go to this page now, nothing would happen because we haven't set up the overlay plugin. Now, I'm going to say right now that the overlay plugin is somewhat misnamed at this point because it's an overlay and redirect plugin. There are three separate sections to this plugin. There's the top part, these two boxes, add URL and text HTML. One of these must be filled in. The second section is all about the redirect. And then the third section is whether we want the overlay to cover the screen completely. So let's talk about what an overlay is. An overlay is using some code on one of your pages to create a section on your page that will display another site right on your website. And you're probably most familiar when you go to somebody's website and you see a video that's on YouTube. That is the same principle. That is an overlay using what's called an iframe, if you've heard it. And an iframe is just an HTML code. And so that iframe has been set to show the video in whatever small size on the page, so you can still see the page and behind it. Plus you can see the video on YouTube and all the commands or the buttons to push to control the video. That's all on YouTube, not on the site. So this is what an overlay is. It's actually people are still on your site. They haven't gone anywhere, but they can see another website through it. And what we used to do with the original incarnations of OTP, being the original OTP and Devastator, and Static Swarm to a certain degree. We used to use the overlay quite a bit so that people would come and see a site, and we would hold them there for a little while, and then we'd redirect them somewhere else. Today, with the way hybrid has been changed, really we don't need an overlay anymore. So we can use it with the WordPress pages, but what we really want to do for now, this may change in the future, but for now we want to click on this text HTML section. You saw it just brought up a little editor. Here we want to delete that. And press the delete button. And now what's going to happen is it will show an overlay on top of our page, so it'll hide the page, but it'll be all white. And the beauty of what that is today one of the most important things is page speed for the search engines. They want to know how fast a page can be. If we click on to add URL and put in our URL to our target website, our page loads, it invokes the overlay, which is still on our page, and then it has to wait until it's finished loading the second website before it finally says, I'm finished, and the redirect can occur and take them somewhere else. So we've eliminated all that time it takes to load up that second website by using this side of the overlay and making it just blank. So it'll make your page redirect that split second faster, which is what we're trying to do. So that's the overlay portion, and that's really there's not much else we can say about it except this last option here is that we want it to fully cover the page, not just partially. So that sets up the whole overlay for WordPress. Nothing more, nothing less. You really don't need to be working hard and finding URLs that will or won't work and so on. Just get rid of displaying anything on top of your page at all except for covering it over with like a white sheet. The second part is the redirect. And what is a redirect? A redirect takes somebody right off your website and sends you somewhere else. So you push them out your door and send them down the street to the right address. So now you've taken them right down to the actual website that you want them to get to. And this is what we're using now as the basic transport mechanism for our visitors when they're leaving our site and going somewhere else, which will be our target URL. So what we want to put in here is our domain, which I can see right up here. And if we copy that and come down here and go Control V, there we go. We've got that in there. And now, if you remember, the name that I had for my redirect file, which was called loading. So I want to type in loading.html. And there I am. I'm now pointing at my HTML redirect file, which we put in the public HTML folder along with the loading.js file as well. They must be together in your root directory. I leave it at 1 second, and at this point, I've completely filled in the overlay plugin. I click Save. Successfully saved. That's what we want to see. There's nothing else that I can do there. Are there any questions that you guys are seeing coming up?
Okay.
Or have I put them all to sleep?
I see you have one question. It says maybe explain under which conditions the OTP overlay will be executed.
In reality, the way that hybrid is designed at this point, there really is no reason to use the overlay. The vast majority of your pages are HTML pages, and it does not use the overlay at all. So the only thing the overlay is going to get used on at this point in time will be your WordPress pages. So there's no reason to use the overlay.
And then I had a question. At one point, the themes mattered. It looks to me like right now that's no longer true. We don't, whatever theme you pick, it wouldn't have any effect. Is that correct?
It really does not have any effect. You can use whatever you like. Something very simple, the 2017 theme, whatever. Try and stay away from the more complex themes because they can alter the settings of WordPress. Some don't respect the settings in WordPress too well.
So then one more question that just appeared is, can't I type anything into that little box there? It sure looks like I should be typing something in.
Here?
Yes.
If you type something in the editor, it's going to those words are going to end up on top of your overlay. So what will happen is you will see those words. We can do a small demo here. Inside our sitemap.txt, which I showed you earlier, if we scroll through here, we should find one page that does not have HTML on it. There it is. So there's our WordPress page. So if I grab that page and come back to my browser, and open the browser, hopefully this works now. There's my overlay, and away I go. So we know that my WordPress page is now working through the overlay as we set it up. I'm going to turn that off before Clive starts talking. Now, if I come down here and I type in "Hello, Rod," now this may be hard to see, but if I come back here now, open up, go back to our page. "Hello, Rod." I don't think we want those words to show up before our visitor ends up where we're sending them. So it's always best when you're setting up your overlay to leave
I don't know.
this.
I kind of liked that.
You kind of liked having "Hello, Rod" on every page that's going to come up now?
On everybody's page, yeah.
So we go ahead again and we eliminate that. We can go back to our page, go see what's happening. And there we go. No "Hello, Rod" anymore. Sorry, we lost you, buddy. And there we are. Our whole site's now fully operational. And I haven't taken too much time in doing that. The biggest time that it will take is in uploading all your HTML files. When you have 45,000 files, you got a lot of data that's moving. I only did 200, and as you saw, that went fairly quick. Really, that's all there is to the overlay and the redirect.
Two more questions.
Yep.
First one was one person asked, "Do we need to put in the redirect URL?" And that was where you pointed. Yeah, in other words, point to where you put it in and show them that, please.
The redirect URL here in the OTP overlay settings?
Yes.
Yes, you do want to make sure that you do put that in here. Here's the reason. And might as well show you this too, because that's probably going to be very helpful. If we go to our file manager in cPanel, and let's refresh that. We've added some files there. Go to our public HTML. So here's our folder with all our pages in it now. Now, when I come in here, I find my loading JS and my loading HTML. If I click on this once and then right click on it, I can go into edit mode. So let's do that. Edit. And now we'll see in here where I'm redirecting everybody. There's my URL. Say I have a different URL. I want to take all this traffic. My site's now matured 6, 9, 12 months later. I'm getting lots of traffic coming through. The product that I was offering is either dead, or I want to offer a new one that's just come out on JVZoo, or maybe Cliff's got some new product I want to promote. I can come in here and I can just change my URL and save this. And once I've done that and come back here, all my WordPress pages and all my HTML pages are now going to redirect to the proper offer. I don't have to go into my WordPress dashboard, nothing. It's all set. Cliff has made this so simple to make one simple change in one file and everything gets changed.
See, that's the whole purpose of one reason why we added the JS file is that it points everything to the same thing, both your static pages and in this, you'll notice in the redirect URL, you're not putting your money site, you're not putting where your ultimate destination, you're putting the file in the public HTML that tells everything else where to go. So you're basically just pointing your WordPress pages. Here you're pointing your WordPress pages to the same exact location that you pointed your static pages to. And that way we don't have to find 3 or 4 or however many places to change. If we want to change our offer, we only have to change it by editing the .js file. That's it. One edit and you have changed the output. And that's why we point here, not to the money site, not to our ultimate destination, but to the file in our install that then points to the ultimate destination. So that when we need to change our offer, we only have to change, we edit one file, which Doug just showed you was the .js file. It was called loading.js in this case. And once we edit that, we have now changed where all our traffic is being directed, both the WordPress site or pages and the static pages. Does that make sense? Brian says no. Michael likes it. Todd says, I just want to redirect to our business website from all 10 domains. That's fine. You just set each of the loading.js will have your business site in there because you put it in there in the settings when you ran OTP hybrid. And that then takes the settings and writes them to the .js file. Then there was another question. I'm scrolling back. Kareem was asking, do we need to zip the files? If it's a large number of files and we're using FileZilla, does it make sense to zip the folder first?
No.
I haven't found that it saves. It all depends on the speed of the internet connection you're using to transfer the files. For me, I find that it's done in 20 minutes or so anyway. If you've got a decent speed of internet, even if you've got 45,000, maybe it takes an hour. But so what? You walk away and do something else somewhere else. So I personally don't bother to zip them and then unzip them. But you may find it saves, if you've got a slower internet connection, it may very well save significant amount of time, and you can obviously zip them going on the transfer and then unzip them when they get there. Either way is perfectly acceptable.
All modern day FTP programs, be it FileZilla or WinSCP, use compression before sending a file. So your HTML file is going to be compressed, it's going to transfer it, and it'll get uncompressed on the other side. So it usually is 6 of one, half a dozen of another. When you're zipping up a folder
OTP
that
has
so many files, it takes forever. The amount of time that it's doing, it's already got most of the files already uploaded to your site. So you can play with it and see how things work for you, but I'm not sure that zipping is going to save you much time, if any. I've just loaded up my hybrid here, just so people can see. Someone was asking about their business website. Doesn't matter whether it's your business website, whatever it is, you're going to put your URL right here that you want Hybrid to take them to. So the sites that Hybrid creates, this is where you're going to put the URL for the visitors to go to, and that gets put in the .js file for you when it's created. I will say too, I've seen some people who are trying to send people to a business website. Unless your business website, or what they end up doing is going directly to a home page. It's probably one of the worst pieces of online marketing you can do, is just going to somebody's home page, unless your home page is designed to collect information right off the bat. Create a hybrid traffic network around a service you're providing, a particular product you're providing, whatever, and point it to that product page or service page. Don't just do it straight to your home page, or your conversions will not be that great. Any other questions you see in there, Rod? We pretty well covered it.
Yeah, there's a couple people that are still confused. They're asking for a step-by-step, but I think if they go back and rewatch the webinar, they'll get that step-by-step. Unless you want to. Well,
we can show that what we started out with was, let's get this out of the way. Let's get that out of the way, and we'll come right back up to here.
We started with a completed campaign, right? And
here's my campaigns folder. Yep. And there's the campaigns.
And we first dragged the appropriate files over for the HTML side to work, which was the contents of the I comply folder, the entire HTML folder, which is named the same thing as your campaign is named, and we had to find the .js file wherever it's located. Usually it's in the XML folder. Okay, so those are the three things that we grab and we drag over. And that completes the HTML side. Then we go to WordPress, and the first thing we do is install WordPress if it hasn't been installed already. And then if it is installed, we simply upload the OTP overlay plugin and then configure the OTP overlay plugin such that it really doesn't overlay as much as it just redirects. And somebody's asking, do we need to use that overlay? Yes. If you don't use the overlay, if you don't use the OTP overlay plugin, then your WordPress pages and posts, however many they are, won't go to the correct location.
They'll never redirect, because this is not just an overlay plugin, it's also handling the redirect as well.
Right. So if we don't configure the OTP overlay, the redirect does not occur, and the sites just go off into Never Neverland. Those pages and posts won't take you anywhere. You want them to take take them to the ultimate destination, which is your money site.
We have the other question that's come up a couple times. Do we have to clean up our WordPress site so that the explanation is not part of sitemap or table of contents?
Sorry?
Do we have to clean up our WordPress site so that the explanation is not part of sitemap or table of contents?
No, that explanation screen only appears the first time you start up WordPress, and it's not part of the files. You can, there's a checkbox on there somewhere that you can say, "Don't show me this again," and it's just there for the user who's brand new to WordPress, but it's not part of the files. Now, a few other questions were popping up. Is the JS uploaded with the XML? No, it's not. The JS is moved over into the public HTML files when you did the FTP transfer. The XML files, we didn't bother to upload because we're going to navigate them. When we do the import, we're going to navigate to where they are on our computer and import them directly right out of the campaign folder.
There's two processes we use for getting our pages up to the website. One is uploading, and that's what we use FileZilla for. The other is importing, and that is totally done through the WordPress dashboard, tools, import. If you remember me going in here, and then you import your XML file. Importing is different than uploading, so if you're talking to us, try if you can to use the right term, because then we'll know what it is you've done.
Okay, Lewis has a question. When you have several I'm sorry, were you done?
Yep, absolutely. No
Okay.
problem.
When you have several .js and redirect.html going to different money sites, do you have to redirect in the overlay to each one?
You can't. Hybrid, the whole OTP concept was designed to take one site, one OTP site, and point it at one offer. And then you create 9 more of those sites and point it at the same offer. So although with the HTML files, you could create separate redirect files to go different places, that's not what the principle of the strategy is. So when you get to the WordPress side here, there's only one file that you can designate in the OTP overlay for a redirect. So you'll only be able to redirect to one place your WordPress file or your WordPress pages.
Somebody else asked, what's the difference, or if you could explain, what's the difference between that add URL space up there and the redirect URL space or checkbox there where you put in the redirect?
Okay. Again, we'll mention this section here at the top with the add URL and the text HTML boxes.
Yes.
That is your options for what type of overlay you want to have. The add URL overlay allows you to put in another website, usually your target. And what will happen is when your WordPress page comes up, your other site will show even though the visitor hasn't left your site. Just like when you're watching a YouTube video in full screen. You still haven't left the site that you clicked on, but the YouTube video is completely taking over the screen. And that's done through a technology called iframe, an HTML technology using an iframe code. The text HTML side allows you to create your own text or add HTML into that editor that we were looking at to create your own page if you wanted. And what we did is we just completely made it blank because that gives us the fastest speed. Again, the way hybrid is designed today, unless you are an advanced user and have some particular reason for using the overlay with a website on it, you should not do it because it will take longer for your page to load. So ignore the add URL side unless you really are advanced to know what you're doing with it and have a particular reason. Under this basic strategy of hybrid right now, there's no reason to use it.
So you always check the right-hand box, text HTML.
Yep.
You always click the redirect URL checkbox.
So you click the HTML, and then we take the text out that's there, and that's all we need to do for this upper portion. Ignore this totally, tick this one, erase the default text. Then I always skip down to this one because it's sort of part and parcel now. We want to make sure that overlay is full screen. Okay, then we come back to our redirect URL and we type in, I like to just go up to my site here, highlight that part, copy, or for those who don't know the keystroke, you can just come over here and go copy, and then paste. Well, that didn't work too well, did it? Come on. Copy this, come back down here, paste. Oh, that's because I didn't hit the right key. And then we put in a slash and our redirect HTML file name with the .html afterwards.
Right.
So if we look at my hybrid, I put the word loading in here for my redirect file name. So that's what I've put here and added the .html on here.
Right. Notice that you're pointing to the HTML, not the .js. The HTML actually evokes the .js file. So you point to the whatever you named whatever you named your redirect page. When you set up the settings, it asks you, what do you want to call the redirect? And it could be some words with hyphens, or it could be, he just used a single word here called loading. And so now you're going to point it to the complete path, which is the site, the folder it's in, and the name of the page, .html, not .js. There'll be another file in the that you moved over as well that has the same name, only it's called loading.js. We don't point it to the loading.js. We always point it to the loading.html. Hope that's clear.
Okay, so I've set up my site and my redirect is not working. Where's the first place I want to check?
Well, the redirect is not working. Is it an HTML page that's not working? Or is it a WordPress page that's not working? First thing you want to do is to determine whether one is and one isn't, or they both aren't, so that we know where to start looking. So if it's just the WordPress pages that aren't working, it's probably something's not set up properly here. If the HTML pages redirect perfectly, probably you didn't specify your redirect HTML here. That would be my guess. Can you add to that, Kim? You've helped more than one or two people now on that.
No, those are the things that, that need to be checked. We just get that a lot in support, so I thought, give them a where to look first. And
yeah, that's the typical places you want. First thing you want to determine, do your HTML files work. And I want to point out again, if you go into your campaign folder, and it's much easier to do this on your computer that you've run a hybrid on than to do it when it's on your site. If you come to your campaign, go into the folder that has all your HTML files, and we'll scroll back down here again until we see sitemap.txt. It's just a text file. Opens up in Notepad, and there is a URL to every page that Hybrid made. Okay, you should be able to randomly grab any one of those and put it in your browser. It's much better to do it this way than to be playing around inside the WordPress dashboard or anything else and trying to view or display or whatever else. Here's all your pages.
I've got one last question here that I'm going to answer as simply as I can. Brian's asking, can you explain the add URL one more time, please? Sure. The easiest way to explain it for the best way that it works now, unless you really want to try to get advanced, is pretend it's not there. Don't do a darn thing with it. Does that explain it? Thanks. You liked that explanation. So basically we just ignore it and forget it's there, and we always check the right hand side, then we go down and we do our redirect thing, and we just totally ignore that whole left hand side, and all we see when we look at it is a blank.
Fill it all in and don't forget to press save.
Yes.
Now, here's the next question, and I was hoping this would come up. Does everybody see what it's saying right now after I click save? It says not saved. Why? We get a lot of people asking that question. Why did that happen? That happened because all the things that I just put in here was what I saved previously. So if you put exactly the same information in and click save, it won't save it for you because it's already there. So that lets you know that you already saved that information exactly as you've done it before. If I was to type hello here, that's different. Now it should let me save. There you are, successfully saved. But if I don't want hello to show there, I've now changed it again. Now I should be able to save again. And there we are. So if you ever see, press the save button, and it comes up, it says not saved, that's because you've already got the same amount of, or the same information in that you already have there. I don't think I've missed too many other things here. I've covered off everything on my sheet. Any other questions? Any more questions on the uploading of the files?
What is that JS file? One more time.
All the JS file does, we'll go back and look here. And the JS was in my XML folder. It's right here. So let's open that up in Notepad++. Wow, there we go. Notepad++. It's showing, no, we don't want to upgrade right now. All it's showing is one command, JavaScript command, and a website URL. That's all it is. And it must have this in here in order to get you to your site. And the loading HTML file, which is its partner over here, it's full of all kinds of other text. And this is going to call the JS file, and it will then just sort of put that URL in here for you. So it just calls the JS file, and away you go. So that's all the JS file is. It's a placeholder to hold this so that it's in one simple spot to go find it and to be able to make one change and change tens of thousands of pages all at once. And that's why Cliff Design separated it out into the two files now, the HTML and the JS file, is so that it's really easy for the beginner or advanced user to jump in, grab this, delete that URL, add the next one, save it, and off you go.
All right, there's a couple more questions, but before I get to the questions, there's a couple of things I want to stress here. If you are putting a name for the campaign, you either have to have, you can't put spaces in the name. You can't put weird characters in the name. It's got to be words. If you need to use more than one word, you can put hyphens between them, but it's also okay to just run it all together. Nobody sees this but you. The same goes when I'm naming the redirect file. It's good to keep that short. I don't want it 17 words long. And if I did use multiple words, I would put hyphens between the words, not underscores, not spaces, not dots. We want strictly hyphens, which is a dash. Another thing that's important to know, a number of people have run into trouble because they're trying to do too many WordPress pages at a time for the resources of their machine. Generating the WordPress pages exhausts or uses up a tremendous amount of resources. So if you've only got let's say you're doing it on your PC and you've only got 4 gigs of RAM, well, you better have everything else closed and out of the way before you try to do a significant number of WordPress pages. In other words, if let's say I'm doing a run of 40,000, I've seen people try to set their ratio as low as 10:1, which what does that mean? That means you're asking for 4,000 WordPress pages to be generated. Well, that's going to take up some serious resources. And most often, if you try to do this on the VPS, even if you've got only hybrid running, most often you're going to get a crash. It's going to tell you it ran out of system resources because you're just trying to generate too darn many WordPress pages. So how do you fix that? You go back and you set your ratio higher. If you're doing a large run of 40 to 45,000, even 30,000, set your ratios in the hundreds. Don't set them in the single or double digits. Okay? Because we've seen that a lot, where people were complaining that it's not working, it keeps crashing on me, and most of the time it's one of two things. It's either that you asked for way too many WordPress pages to be generated, or the amount of resources you have on the computer, or there are times when people still try to ask for more pages than the calculate button says you can have. Yeah, understand that the calculate button calculates the maximum number of pages it can generate. And you always want to request a number a little bit less than what is the maximum that it could generate. If you request more, it's just going to sit there and spin. And you're basically asking it to pull pages out of ether and create them from nothing. And it can't do that. It can only create the maximum number that shows up when you click on the calculate button. Hope that's
I'm
clear.
glad you brought those points up. Those are really good points. I'd also like to bring up something else, especially for those that are using remotes. but anybody who's running a large campaign with hybrid, you can't believe how many times somebody's having problems. They can't log on to their remote or whatever else because the system is being so heavily abused. And what's abusing them is people like to come into their HTML folder so they can watch how many pages have been created while hybrid is running. Now, just a quick explanation. This program here, which is a Windows program called Windows Explorer, it is updating itself and refreshing the screen many times. That's why it updates so quickly. You see those numbers jumping. Once you hit about 10,000, you're bringing your machine to its knees. Can you imagine what it's like when it's at 40,000? Every time it has to refresh now, it's got to go check every one of those files to see if something's changed. Please don't run hybrid and leave Windows Explorer in this directory. It's going to slow your campaign down from finishing, and it's going to bring your machine to its knees. At least just back up one folder and be right there so that nothing's changing. And then when you come back on your machine and you want to check, hop over, have a look at the number, get out again. It's really easy, and it's going to save your frustration level an awful lot.
It also keeps you from crashing our servers because if a whole bunch of people do that to us all at the same time, then we have resources, people fighting for resources where there usually should be plenty.
Unlike most remote companies that limit the amount of resources you can use, we try and let you have what you can get on our servers. But if we get 20 people all doing this game where they've got it open trying to refresh 40,000 files at one time, it really hurts the server that everybody's on.
That's true too.
Sorry, I was just going to say another thing too. When you're running hybrid, if you can see my taskbar right now, see how I can tell how many things are open? Don't do that. If you're going to run hybrid, close out everything. That should be turned off. I don't need this anymore. So let's close that out. Definitely get rid of a browser when you're running hybrid. Browsers are just terrible at hogging the memory. And there's the only two windows I really need to be open. Don't even really need this one open. I can always open it whenever I got on, but it doesn't matter if you leave it here. But that's the only two things that should be running when hybrid is running. And it's going to make your campaigns run a lot faster.
Can you? Yep. I didn't mean.
I was just going to say it allows hybrid to have all the memory it can grab.
Can you show them real quick how to restart the remote and emphasize that they must restart and not shut down unless they want to be having.
There's two ways to start a remote. One, you would normally first close down all the files that are there. And then what you want to do is hold down your Alt key first you want to get to an empty spot of your desktop and click that, so that what that's doing is telling Windows that we want all the functions assigned to the desktop to occur. Then we hold down our Alt key and press F4. And what will happen is this little window will pop up, which looks kind of familiar to people who use Windows. And you have all your options here. And you want to make sure you choose Restart. Because if you choose Shutdown, you're going to be calling one of us to get your machine running. Okay, click OK, and away you go. Now, some people are having problems getting that Alt F4 key combination to work. There is another way. Again, you have to be careful, but you come down to the Windows Start menu, and there's a place here you can type in your files. You can type in shutdown space /R, and the R tells it to do the restart. You hit enter, and it's going to do it for you. So there's the two simple ways to do a restart of your remote. Any other questions there?
Yes. Somebody that doesn't really understand the calculation, how the calculator button determines how many is the maximum file or maximum pages in HTML that can be created. So can you explain that one more time, please?
Certainly. Combinations for your titles are determined by what you have in box 1 and titles box 2. If all you have is titles in box 1, it counts how many titles you have in here. And in this case, I have 28. And then when it's creating titles for your articles, it randomly grabs 2 of these titles and puts them together. So the number of combinations you can have out of that is 28 times 28. And if we look up here, we'll see 28 titles loaded, 784 combinations, which is 28 times 28. Now, if we go over to titles 2, it's going to take every one of these titles in titles 1 and add what's in titles 2 to it to create your title. So if I only have one thing over here, it's going to take every one of these 28 items and add the word keyword to the end of it. And I'm going to save. You have to always save your campaign in order to use the calc. And you'll see now that I only have 28 combinations because it's got 28 items on box 1 and only 1 on box 2. So I'm going to get organic traffic keyword, organic online traffic keyword, traffic from search engines keyword. And that will be my 28 titles all the way down. If I added another keyword over here and made it keyword 2, and then come down and go save. Oh, malformed. What did I do there? Shouldn't have malformed. There we are. Now you'll see I've gone from 28 to 56. Oh, well, I'm getting that. I've gone from 2 titles over here in the second box, so now I have 56 combinations, which is 28 times however many I got in box 2, which is 2, is 56. So if I had yep.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I had 1,000, maybe it helps if I keep my fingers off the keyboard. If I had 1,000 items in box 1 and 50 in box 2, then I could create 50,000 combinations.
Yes. What did you notice that the malformed campaign button kept warning kept popping up while he was doing that? Why? Because he only had 56 possible combinations. And wait a minute, if I go up there and look at the box where it specifies how many pages I'm asking for, it says 200. So again, it's saying I can't create 200 if my max is 56. So you have to add some more titles in one of those places in order to get to 200.
So if I have keyword 3, I'm going to get it again because I have.
Yes.
And what it does is it immediately comes to the tutorials tab, and you notice it's highlighted on titles 2, and it's brought it up and telling you all about malformed data. It'll tell you all the different options. So now my poor little machine's dying here. Sorry, folks, I'm working on a really low-end laptop so that the resolution was a lot bigger for you on the other end. So that's what it is that you have to do is titles box 1 and titles box 2. If I go back to the front and I had another keyword in here now, we'll put in keyword 4. We now know 4 times 28 is only 100. So let's do, I'm going to do it this cheater's way. I'm going to come down here and go 5, 6.
Yes. Realize that this seems almost counterintuitive because
8.
if I have 212 or more keywords in or long tail keywords in titles 1, and I don't put anything in titles 2, then I hit the calculate button and it says, sure enough, you've got enough to do 45,000. Why? Because it's multiplying titles 1 times titles 1. However, if I change the equation by adding titles to title 2, it now actually goes down the number of, if I only put 5 keywords in titles 2, it's now the number of titles in titles 1 times the number of titles in titles 2. It's no longer multiplying titles 1 times titles 1. It's multiplying titles 1 times titles 2. So you're either going to have to add a lot more titles to titles 1 or a lot more titles to titles 2 to get where you want to be, where it calculates at least 45,000 if you're trying to do a big run. Does that make sense? There was one more thing I wanted to bring up, if I can remember what it was. That I see. Oh, could you show people how to use one thing that will mess up a campaign pretty well is if I, especially if I have a long list of titles in titles 1, I don't want spaces in between the titles. I also don't want spaces at the beginning of the titles or at the end. If he scrolls all the way down to the end of these 28 titles, you should see that there are no spaces at the end. Well, there's an easy way to use link swarm as a tool to make sure you've got no spaces in your titles. Because if you've got a big long list and some of them are doing word wrapping around, it's kind of hard to spot whether there's any just blank spaces in there. Realize that every time it sees a blank space, it counts that as one of your titles. And what you'll end up with is just a hyphen in front of or behind the remainder of the title. So if I had a space in titles 2, I would get organic traffic hyphen, and I would get organic online traffic hyphen, because it sees the space as just a blank, but it still counts it as. So you have to make sure that both of your titles boxes have no spaces in them. So Doug's going to show you real quickly how to use a tool from Link Swarm to ensure very quickly that you don't have any duplicates and you don't have any spaces. Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, I'm just loading up Link Swarm now. When he says spaces, he's meaning blank lines. So, for instance, if I was to go in here and add this blank line, Hybrid's now seeing that as, instead of the 28 that I had there, it's now seeing it as 29 because this is an extra line. It's counting how many lines of data we have here. But a blank line is not being any good to us because it's just going to give us a blank file name. And that will cause Hybrid to sometimes have problems, most especially if we have them at the very end of the file. So we really, check the bottom of your file. You don't want to see something like that. So what we're going to do is wait for Link Swarm to start up here. And we want to grab all the, by the way, the easy way to grab a large list of text in a box is to right click and go select all. It's so much easier than the scrolling up and down from one end to the other. And now you can just do your copy. We come over to Link Swarm, and in Link Swarm we have a remove duplicates. We come over to this side, paste in all our items. As you can see, the blank lines are in there. and we click remove duplicates, and there's our list. All done. Come back in onto this side now, and Control A for select all, Control C to copy. Come back here, Control A, Control V. My list has no duplicates. It has no blank lines, except at the top, which it always creates that one. And you're good to go. So that's the best way to get rid of any duplicates. We've had a number of people that say, well, Hybrid has 250 titles in there, so that should be enough for 45,000 pages. But they forget that they made 3 copies of the same titles. And so it's overwriting because it's finding the same thing twice, 3 times, 4 times, however many times they've duplicated it. So if you remove your duplicates right from the start when you're doing your titles, then you know exactly how many individual and unique titles you have before putting them into your campaign. Is that what you want to cover, Rod?
Yes, thank you. Somebody was saying you make it look so easy. This is easy. This is not rocket science. I've done rocket science. I've done nuclear power. It's nuclear physics. It's not that. This is a whole lot easier.
I was even saying today, you know, setting up this demo on us, I was saying to Rod and Kim, you know, I just marvel myself, and I've been playing with computers for 40 some odd years. I just marvel at how easy it is to create these massive sites. And with the tools that Cliff has given us to make things look, you know, to remove duplicates, you know, do any keyword tools. Here's a keyword tool, man. It'll grab you keywords coming out your yin yang if you want it. All the different tools that he's given us in here, and I think he's got a few more coming along the way, to make putting our information in here so easy. Don't let it feel like it's complicated, because it's not. It really is simple, and that's what we wanted to show you today. You saw it didn't take me long to upload files to a website. That's pretty simple. You saw it didn't take long to check your pages and everything. So the setting up the site is a pretty simple job once you've done it once or twice. I suggest to everybody, please don't do your first site and try and do 45,000 pages. Do 200 like this. And start playing around. Put it up on this website. Delete it all again. Go into the WordPress installer and delete it. Go back, install it again. Do another one. Put it up. Get used to how it's done. Because once you've done it 2-3 times, you can do it in your sleep. It's that easy.
Well, for those that are having a real hard time getting this in there, thinking about executing it, a good thing to do is when the replay comes out, watch one step, do it, watch the next step, do it, watch the next step, do it. Just do it in little bitty pieces.
Any more questions? Are we done for the night?
When will the replay be ready? Sometime tomorrow. It takes a while of time for it to render. We sometimes go back and do a little bit of editing if there was big blank spaces or holes. We've got to at least watch it and make sure there's nothing wrong with it, and then we upload it somewhere and make it available as a usually on YouTube. So I hope this clears it up. And the thing is, Cliff constantly had to remind a number of people, even the ones in the beta testing group, quit making this so hard. Everybody wants to make, you know, they just cannot believe that this is as easy and as simple as it is. But if you watch Cliff do it, he keeps it simple. He does not add all this other stuff, worrying about what kind of plugins should I have alongside? I start out with nothing, no plugins whatsoever. And then I add OTP overlay. And then later I might add a couple of select plugins, but I'm very selective because you want to just keep this as simple as possible and go for volume. The other thing that I need to bring up here is some people are under the misconception that every one of your OTP campaigns is going to be a massive home run. And by Friday afternoon, my PayPal is going to be full. It doesn't work that way. There are going to be, just like the new rookie that walks up to the major leagues for the first time, he's thinking he's going to get a home run every time, right? But then he sees a pitch he's never seen before. And he may very well strike out a number of times. And he may hit a foul ball a few times. But eventually he stays with it. He starts to hit some base hits and some doubles and some triples. And eventually even puts one out of the park. It just, you realize that it's volume here that we're going for. And not every topic that I pick is going to be driving Google crazy with they can't wait to get an index. Some are going to just be stinkers. It's going to happen. But the thing that about this is you do enough of them, sooner or later you get that home run, and then's when you really get to enjoy the benefits of that traffic.
That's well said, Rod. I might also say that, people are so bent on specific numbers of this and specific numbers of that. There really is no specific number. We call a traffic network roughly 10 sites. You could find that if you made an 11th site, that one was the home run. You just never know. It's just all the way the combinations work of our titles and the content it scrapes and how it all gets put together. There's so many million combinations of all that until you find the right ones that really satisfy Google's needs, it could take a little while. So other than that, some sites, they may not be home runs, but they hit doubles every day. That's okay too. We'd all like some of them.
One other thing that I'd like to point out, I've had a number of people approach me and go, I'm doing a local business. I'm trying to help my local jeweler or my local roofer. And, I got a brother-in-law that's that's in the roofing business. He really needs some more business and more traffic. But he only lives in one small city. So all I've got for locations in titles 2 is city and city state. I say, baloney. Let's say I take my area here. I live in Kenosha, Wisconsin. If you look, I'm in southeastern Wisconsin and very close to northeastern Illinois. So I would put southeastern Wisconsin, northeastern Illinois. I would put all the counties surrounding. I would put all the area codes, all the zip codes that could be. I generally take the business, draw a circle around it of about 50 miles, because that's where they're most likely going to get their business from. And then I list every village, township, city, neighborhood. If it's a spot on the map, I name it. And then I make sure I throw in counties, I throw in cities, like I said, even neighborhoods. And then when you add all the possible area codes and all the possible zip codes, you've got plenty of titles for titles 2.
Maybe one if there's enough local marketers and they show in the Discord group that they'd like to see it, maybe we can do a webinar one time on using another tool in the tool chest that they have called Local Mash. show them how they can generate all those different cities and counties and states and zip codes and even longitude and latitude, and put that in their Titles 2 box.
Yeah, if you remember the show, the '70s show, I believe they were in Milwaukee, but occasionally they would take trips to Kenosha, and even Happy Days. I'm pretty sure that they would occasionally go up to Kenosha. So we're famous.
Okay. Now we just one last thing too on the webinar topics. We have a few more in mind that we want to continue to do over the next few weeks, but really this is all about you guys. And although we can pick and choose what topics to present, we'd really love to hear from all of you what you think is most important to cover next. So if you've got any issues that you're having, or an area you want us to try and cover, even like strategy on local marketing or whatever, pick something and let us know. And when we see the volumes of who wants what, then we get a really good idea which topic we're going to be talking about next.
We really are here to help you with whatever you need help with. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to do your campaigns for you, but anything you're struggling with, tell us, and we'll do our best to make it crystal clear for you. Really nice job, Doug. Thank you very much for doing this.
I guess unless we've got more questions, which we probably don't, you can always ask us in the Discord group as well, or send in a ticket to support@locustware.com, and we're more than happy to answer your questions. Hope everybody has a great night, and if this was informative and helpful to them, and if there's anything we can do better, just let us know.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.